what's your love language?
My love language is physical touch. He's handsome, so there's that.
Hey crew, welcome back. Take a breath. Get comfortable, because tonight we're walking straight into the moment that no one thought would ever happen. For years, he talked over her, dismissed her, rewrote her story in public while pretending everything was fine behind the scenes. But last night, in one quiet sentence, Meri turned the entire story upside down. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't throw a glass. She just said one thing, one sentence that hit Kody like a thunderclap, and you could see it in his eyes. He knew the game had changed. Look at him in that clip, arms folded, smirk twitching at the corner, doing that same defensive body lean he always does when he thinks he's in control. Except this time, Meri didn't shrink. She waited, just long enough for silence to feel like punishment, and then she said it. You don't even know what love feels like anymore. The words landed like a crack through glass. For a second, you could hear nothing but the hum of the camera light. Kody blinked, laughed nervously, tried to wave it off. That's not true, he said, his voice climbing an octave higher than usual, the tell of a man caught off guard, but Meri didn't flinch. She looked at him the way you look at someone you've already forgiven, but will never trust again. There was no fire, no shouting, just clarity. It wasn't about winning anymore. It was about being seen. Our insider told us the crew didn't even know how to react. One producer whispered, "Keep rolling, don't cut," because everyone could feel it. Something irreversible was happening. You know that micro moment when a person realizes the story they've been selling doesn't work anymore. That's what we saw in Kody's face. A flash of panic, like a man who realizes the house he built on excuses just cracked at the foundation. But let's rewind. How did we get here? All week, Kody had been pacing, ranting about loyalty, about respect. Every word came from the same script: blame, victimhood, superiority. And Meri listened, like she's done for years, until she didn't. That morning, she'd been sitting alone at the kitchen island, scrolling through old photos on her phone, photos from when the laughter was real, before it all became performance. One picture stopped her cold, the two of them in Vegas, holding hands at a county fair. She stared at it until her thumbprint blurred the screen. She realized that the last time Kody had reached for her hand was that day 7 years ago. Something shifted. By the time filming started, Meri had already decided, no more pretending. When Kody started his usual tirade, the same recycled grievances about how the wives didn't support his leadership, she stayed quiet, letting him dig his own emotional grave. Then she asked one simple question. Do you ever wonder why your touch feels like control instead of comfort? He froze. The crew looked up from their monitors. That was not in the script. And that's when Kody tried to pivot. You're twisting things, he said, reaching for the old defense. I've always been affectionate, Meri. But Meri just smiled and said the line that would echo across the fandom by morning. You don't even know what love feels like anymore. The silence after that sentence could have drowned out thunder. Even Robin, sitting off camera, shifted uncomfortably. Because she knew it too. This wasn't the Meri who begged for crumbs. This was the Meri who had finally learned what peace sounds like when you stop explaining yourself. Kody tried to recover, laughing too loudly. That's cruel, he said. But his hands betrayed him, tapping, tightening, the micro gestures of a man cracking under truth. Meri looked straight into the lens, not at him, into us. And in that look, there was a message. You saw what he did, right? You saw what I became. The next few seconds never aired on television, but our source says, Kody muttered something under his breath, barely audible. You think you can embarrass me on camera? Meri's eyes didn't move. No, she said, you already did that yourself. The air turned heavy, thick with tension. Even the boom operator whispered later, I thought something was going to break. But nothing broke, not yet, because Meri, for the first time in years, had realized she didn't need to win the argument. She just needed to let silence finish it for her. And that silence, it's what haunted Kody long after the cameras cut. Except, they didn't cut. The producer decided to keep rolling, sensing something bigger. Because what happened next wasn't just confrontation, it was revelation. Kody stood up, muttering that he didn't have to take this, but his voice cracked. He stormed off toward the hallway, the mic wire tugging behind him like a leash. Meri stayed seated, breathing slowly, her fingers tracing the rim of her mug. You can't storm out of yourself, she whispered, almost to no one. And then she said one more line, quiet but sharp enough to slice the air. You always thought love was obedience. It's not, it's touch. And you stopped touching, the director whispered. Holy hell. That was the moment. The one that would ignite everything. The group chat leaks, the Reddit threads, the divided fandom. because what she said next wasn't meant for Kody. It was meant for the world. But before she could finish, the front door creaked. Someone else had just walked in. The camera turned, slowly, catching a flash of blonde hair, a set jaw, and eyes that looked like they'd already read every secret in that house. And that is where everything started to unravel. The door closed behind her with a sound that felt louder than it should have been. Christine. She wasn't supposed to be there that day. The crew hadn't been told. The schedule hadn't included her, and the look on Kody's face when she appeared in that doorway, it wasn't surprise. It was fear. "Am I interrupting?" she said softly, though the edge in her voice could have cut glass. Meri turned her head, eyes wide, a flash of confusion, and something like relief. Kody froze mid-step, one hand still gripping the wire on his mic, chest rising fast. "No, not at all," Meri said, but there was a tremor there, an energy that made the room hum. Christine stepped forward, crossing the line of camera sight, and the crew instantly rearranged, cables shifting, lights adjusting. She wasn't here for permission, she was here because she'd heard. According to the crew notes, Christine had been watching the feed from the monitor room. She'd seen the argument, heard Meri's words, and something in her snapped. She walked out of her van, straight through the open set door. No producer dared stop her. "Meri," she said, her voice calm now, lower. "Say it again." Kody's shoulders stiffened. "Say what?" he demanded, his voice carrying that same brittle authority. Christine didn't even look at him. The part about love. It was a truth that hung in the air like mist, impossible to wipe away. Kody took a step forward, voice rising. "You're both twisting this. You think you're prophets now? You think you're experts on me?" Christine's face didn't change. "No," she said. "We just lived with you long enough to see what you became." Meri lowered her eyes. The cameras caught it, that micro-movement. A pause that said more than a paragraph ever could. It was grief, not hatred. Grief that had finally stopped pretending to be patience. Kody started pacing again, his voice unraveling. "You're making me the villain. After everything I did, after the sacrifices I made." The phrase, "the sacrifices I made," repeated 3 times, louder each time, like he was trying to convince himself. Christine stepped closer, arms folded. "You didn't make sacrifices, Kody. You built walls, and you called them boundaries." You could see Meri's eyes shift. Something clicked. She whispered, "That's exactly what he did." It was like watching someone remember who they were before they got rewritten. The crew would later describe it as electric tension. No one spoke above a whisper. The boom operator leaned forward, the camera operator's knuckles white around the rig. And then, like clockwork, Kody laughed. That same forced, deflective laugh, the one fans have come to recognize as his escape hatch. "Oh, this is rich. You two rehearsed this," he said, trying to smirk. But the smirk didn't land, because Meri and Christine weren't fighting him anymore. They weren't giving him energy. They were just done. Meri said quietly, "We didn't rehearse it. We just stopped lying at the same time." The sentence was quiet, soft, but the impact, seismic. You could see something break in him then. His hands went to his head, tugging at his hair, pacing faster. "You're making me look like a monster on camera." Christine turned slightly toward the camera, eyes glassy but steady. "You did that yourself," she said. The crew looked at each other. One whispered, "Is this even part of the show anymore?" But here's the strange part, and the part no one saw on television. Kody didn't leave. He sat down for the first time in years. The man who always controlled every conversation just sat. His breathing slowed. He looked at Meri, really looked at her, like he was seeing a ghost from another life. "You used to hold my hand," Meri said, barely above a whisper. He blinked. "You pulled away," he said automatically. "No," she said. "I waited." The silence that followed wasn't just awkward, it was revealing. Christine looked down at the table, her voice barely audible. "That's all any of us did, Kody. We waited for you to show up." He swallowed hard, his mouth opening like he had something to say, but nothing came out. Meri leaned forward, elbows on the table, and for the first time her tone softened. "You think we hate you. We don't. We just stopped needing you to define what love means." Kody stared at her like she was speaking a language he'd forgotten. "You think love is touch?" he asked. Meri shook her head. "Number love is presence. And when touch stopped, so did your presence." Christine nodded. "Exactly." And that's when something strange happened. The atmosphere shifted again. The lights flickered slightly. The hum of equipment grew louder. The boom mic picked up the faintest sound, a deep exhale from someone off camera. The director whispered, "Who's that breathing?" They looked toward the hallway, toward the dark doorway behind Kody. A shadow moved. At first, everyone assumed it was a crew member, maybe someone repositioning equipment. But then the shape stepped forward, slow, careful, as if they'd been listening the whole time. It wasn't a crew member. It wasn't Robin. It was someone no one expected to see again. And they were holding something, a small silver voice recorder. Meri's eyes widened, the color draining from her face. The figure pressed the button. Click. A man's voice, faint and tired, echoed out of the tiny speaker. "You can't love what you're afraid to lose." Kody froze. Christine gasped. The crew didn't move, because that voice wasn't Kody's. The voice on the recorder was calm, quiet, hauntingly familiar, but it didn't belong to Kody. The sound carried the weight of memory, like someone speaking from a place between confession and regret. For a second, no one breathed. The playback hissed faintly in the silence, that static hum of an old device loaded with something too personal. The figure holding it stepped into the light, brown jacket, tired eyes, the unmistakable face of Leon, Meri's child. Kody's mouth opened, then closed again, as if words had evaporated before forming. What are you doing here?" he stammered. Leon didn't look at him. Their eyes went straight to Meri. "I thought you might need to hear it again," they said softly. Meri's voice cracked. "Where did you get that?" Leon thumbed the recorder, pressing play once more. The same phrase came through, slightly clearer this time. "You can't love what you're afraid to lose." And then a small laugh followed. Older, gentler, Kody's laugh. Except it wasn't today's Kody, it was him years ago, when his voice carried warmth before resentment replaced intimacy. Leon said, "You told him that once, Mom." He recorded it. "I found it in an old box when I moved out." The room changed temperature. The air felt denser, like the past itself had entered. Kody leaned forward, confusion battling shame. I don't even remember recording that," Meri whispered. "That's the problem." Christine folded her arms, eyes locked on Kody. "She was reminding you back then of exactly what she's telling you now. You've spent years terrified of losing control, so you stopped letting yourself love at all." Kody rubbed his face, the bravado draining away. "You think I wanted this? You think I wanted all of you to hate me?" Leon shook their head. "No one hates you, Dad. They just stopped believing the story you tell yourself." For a brief second, the camera caught something raw in Kody's eyes, an echo of the man he used to be. The posture dropped, the hands unclenched. He looked small. But then came the twist, the one no one in the crew expected. Meri said quietly, "That recording isn't the only thing Leon found." Christine looked over. "What do you mean?" Meri hesitated. You could see her fighting the words, the decision whether to bury or reveal. Finally, she reached into her pocket, fingers trembling slightly, and slid a folded piece of paper across the table. "This," she said, "is a letter." Kody frowned. "What letter?" Meri's voice barely held. "The one you wrote to me, the one you never sent." Christine's eyes widened, the camera zoomed. Even the air conditioner seemed to hush. Kody blinked in disbelief. "That's impossible. I never." "You did," Meri interrupted. "You wrote it and tore it up, but you forgot I saw it before you threw it away." Leon nodded. "She kept the pieces. I taped them back together." Kody looked like someone had drained all the color from him. "That was years ago. Before everything fell apart." Meri slid the letter toward him, then read it. His hands shook slightly as he unfolded the creased pages. His eyes scanned the words, and the crew later said you could almost see the memory flooding back in real time. The sentences that had been written in anger and guilt. The confessions buried under pride. Kody swallowed hard and began to read out loud. "Sometimes I don't touch you because it reminds me how much distance there really is. I used to think love was something you could manage like a household, but now it feels like something that manages me. You said my fear keeps me cold. Maybe you're right. Maybe I am afraid. But if I let you in again, I'll have to feel everything I've ignored, and I don't think I know how to survive that." "I didn't mean for you to see that." Meri met his gaze. "Then why write it?" He didn't answer. Leon looked between them. "You both kept pretending love was a performance. Maybe it was just two people afraid to admit they missed each other." The truth hung there, heavy but strangely peaceful. But peace never lasts long in this family. A sudden buzz came from the producer's headset. She pressed her earpiece and whispered, "Wait, what, are you sure?" Then louder, "Geez, you're going to want to hear this." Kody turned, frowning. "What now?" The producer held up her phone, pale. "It's Robin. She's outside, and she's not alone." Christine's jaw tightened. Robin's heels clicked across the floor before her voice even entered the frame. Steady, but with that tremor of someone rehearsing control. "I see the family decided to have another therapy session without me." Kody stood immediately, instinctively moving toward her, but she brushed past him, eyes locked on the table. The letter, the recorder, the exposed truth sitting between them like evidence. Meri didn't move. Christine didn't blink. Robin's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. So this is what honesty looks like now. Meri finally spoke, her tone calm but cutting. No, Robin. This is what accountability looks like. Robin's hand dipped into her purse. Oh, I planned to. She pulled something out. A folded stack of papers, thicker than a letter, the top edge marked with blue ink. You wanted truth, Robin said, voice trembling now. Then, let's see how much of it you can handle. The room froze again, every camera rolling, every heart pounding, because in that moment, no one knew what she was holding, but everyone felt the danger in her smile. And when she unfolded the first page, Meri's expression changed completely. She whispered one word, impossible. The papers trembled slightly in Robin's hands, but her voice, steady, deliberate, cut through the silence like a blade. You all think you've seen the truth, she began, pacing slowly. But what you've been watching is a story carefully cropped to make me the villain and you the martyrs. She turned toward Meri, eyes sharp. You think you know what Kody and I share? You think you're the only one who's been hurt? Meri's jaw clenched. This isn't about who's hurt, Robin. It's about who's been honest. Robin's smile tightened. Then let's talk about honesty. She lifted the papers and fanned them out, the rustle echoing across the room. These are messages, journals, pieces of your own words. Meri, things you wrote to Kody long after the cameras stopped rolling. Kody's head snapped up. What? Meri's eyes widened. You went through I didn't go through anything. Robin snapped. He gave them to me. He said he didn't know what to do with them. The shock rippled through the room. Christine's eyes darted to Kody. You gave her Meri's letters. Kody rubbed his forehead, voice low. I didn't think she'd use them, Meri finished. Her voice was shaking. Not from fear, but fury barely contained. Robin held one of the pages up. This one's dated last year, you wrote. Sometimes I think if you just touched my hand again, everything inside me would stop screaming. Meri's breath hitched, and a flush rose across her face. That was private. Robin's tone softened, not out of mercy, but precision. You wanted touch. You always made it sound so innocent, but you don't understand how it felt for the rest of us to live inside the shadow of that need. Christine stepped forward, voice sharp. Stop twisting it. You can't shame someone for wanting love. Robin turned on her. Easy for you to say, Christine. You got to walk away. You turned your pain into freedom. I stayed. I cleaned up what was left. Kody finally spoke, his voice heavy. Enough, all of you. He looked between them, the weight of years pressing down. This isn't helping. But the words fell flat, because for once, no one was listening to him. Meri's eyes glistened, not with weakness, but clarity. You see, Robin, I stopped begging for touch the day I realized it was never love I wanted from him, it was truth. Robin blinked, thrown off balance. Truth? Yes, Meri said. Because truth holds you. It meets you where you are, and you've both been hiding from it for so long, you don't even know what it feels like anymore. The air crackled. Even the lights seemed to hum louder. Leon's voice broke through, quiet but steady. Mom, don't. Meri looked at them and smiled softly. It's okay, it's time. She turned to Kody. You remember the night before we moved from Vegas, when I asked you if we were okay? He nodded slowly, confused. Yeah, I said we'd figure it out. Meri took a step forward. Number, you said. We'll figure out what version of us people need to see. The color drained from his face. Christine's mouth fell open. He said that. Meri nodded. That's when I realized you didn't want love. You wanted an audience. The cameras caught every second Kody standing there, trapped between defiance and guilt. Robin clutching the papers. You built a life on being needed, Kody, but what happens when no one needs your version of love anymore? The room went deathly still. Robin stepped closer, her tone sharp. You think you're innocent, Meri. You think this performance makes you righteous. Meri turned slowly. Number, it just makes me free. The words hit like thunder. Robin flinched. Even Kody seemed to take a half step back, Christine whispered. She's not scared of you anymore. The tension was suffocating. Then, Robin's expression changed, almost pitying. You want freedom, she said quietly. Then you should know what it costs. She reached into her purse again and pulled out a small flash drive, glinting under the light. This, she said, holding it up, is everything the cameras didn't show. Voice notes, deleted footage, old recordings. Things that could destroy every version of this story you think you control. The crew exchanged stunned looks. One of them mouthed, Is that even real? Robin smirked faintly. Oh, it's real. And maybe the world deserves to hear it. Kody's voice cracked. Robin, don't. But she wasn't looking at him anymore. She was looking at Meri. You wanted truth, right? Then let's open the door. She walked to the producer's desk, plugged the drive into the laptop, and clicked a file. For a moment, only static played. Then a voice emerged, Broken, tired, unmistakably Mary's. I don't think I know how to love him anymore, but I don't know how to stop trying. The sound filled the room, intimate and haunting. Mary's knees nearly gave out. Leon moved toward her, but she raised a trembling hand. "It's okay," she whispered. "I said that. It's real." Kody looked between them all, desperate now. "This is insane. We're tearing each other apart." Christine glared at him. "No, Kody, we're finally being honest," the recording continued. "Maybe love isn't supposed to last forever. Maybe it just teaches you what you can survive." Robin paused the playback, her chest heaving. "That's who we are now," she said. "Survivors pretending we're still a family." The silence that followed felt endless. Then Leon spoke, barely above a whisper. "You keep calling it survival, but maybe it's just fear with better lighting." Every head turned. Even Robin didn't have a comeback. Meri looked at her child, eyes full of something fierce and steady. "Then maybe it's time," she said quietly, "to turn off the lights." She reached across the table and pressed the laptop shut, cutting the recording mid-sentence. The click echoed like a gunshot. No one moved. Then, faintly, the sound of another click came. From the hallway, Christine frowned. What was that? The cameras turned just in time to catch a faint red light blinking from behind the half-open door. A camera, not theirs. A second feed. Someone else had been recording all along. The red light blinked again, faint but steady, a pulse in the shadows. It wasn't part of the crew's setup. Every cameraman in the room froze when they saw it. One of them whispered, "That's not ours." Robin's head snapped toward the doorway. Kody took a hesitant step forward, his voice sharp with panic. "Who's there?" No answer. Just that blinking red light, like an eye that refused to close. Christine moved closer, slowly, every step echoing. "Someone's filming us," she murmured. "Again." Leon crossed to the door before anyone could stop them. They reached out, hand trembling slightly, and pushed it open. The camera inside the hallway was small, perched on a shelf, wireless, modern, and still warm to the touch. A small note lay taped beneath it. Leon peeled it off and read it out loud. "You wanted the truth. Here's the rest of it." Robin's face went pale. What? What does that mean?" Meri turned to her, eyes narrowing. "You tell us. You brought the recordings." Robin shook her head rapidly. "That's not mine. I don't know who put that there." The producer hurried over, snatching up the camera, her hands shaking as she pressed playback. The tiny screen flickered, static, then motion. The image came into focus. It was the same room, same table, but from a higher angle. The footage wasn't from today. It was older, months ago. Meri, Kody, and Robin in the middle of a conversation that had never aired. Kody leaned closer to the screen, his breath quickening. When was this? The video's timestamp glowed faintly, 03:14, 9:26 p.m. in the footage. Meri was crying quietly, her voice trembling. "You can't keep asking me to be invisible, Kody. I'm not furniture." Kody's recorded voice replied, cold, almost mechanical. "You're not invisible, Meri. You're safe. There's a difference." The room watching went silent. Present day, Kody's mouth fell open. "I don't even remember saying that," Christine whispered. "That's worse." The footage continued. Robin stepped into frame, putting a hand on Kody's shoulder. "She's just emotional. Don't let her guilt you," Meri on screen whispered. "Guilt me? I've been begging for a hand that never comes." The Kody in the video turned, frustrated. "I can't fix feelings." The screen glitched, the sound warped, and then a line came through crystal clear. "You want love, Meri? Then stop asking for it like it's owed to you." The audio cut real. World Kody staggered back from the table, as if the sound itself had struck him. His voice was barely a whisper. "Who recorded that?" No one answered. Meri's breathing was slow, deliberate. "You did," she said finally. "You set up those cameras for your confessionals. You forgot to turn one off." Christine let out a soft, disbelieving laugh. So the truth was sitting there the whole time. The silence that followed was a living thing. Kody sat down, hands shaking, face buried in them. For once, there was no defense, no sermon, no performance, just silence. Meri's tone softened, not pity, not cruelty, just truth. "That's the version of you the world never saw. The man who couldn't love without keeping score." Robin's eyes darted between them. "This doesn't have to go out, right?" The producer swallowed hard. "It's too late. The feeds synced to cloud backup. Someone's been archiving everything." Leon turned toward her. "Who?" The producer hesitated. "A third-party company. TLC contracted them. Everything that was filmed off-site gets mirrored to their database automatically." Christine's voice broke into a whisper. "So this isn't over. They have all of it." The realization hit everyone at once. The letters, the confessions, the secret footage, all of it potentially public, waiting for whoever wanted to find it. Meri stood slowly. The air around her seemed to still. Then maybe it's better that way. Kody looked up, eyes red. You'd really let the world see me like that? She held his gaze. No, Kody, I'd let them see me, the part you never let breathe. Robin took a step forward, voice breaking. If this goes out, we're done. Everything collapses. Meri's expression didn't change. Maybe that's what has to happen before anything real can begin. No one spoke. The hum of the lights was the only sound, steady and low, as if the house itself was holding its breath. Then, quietly, Christine said, "So what now?" Meri looked at her, then at Leon, then back to the still glowing red light on the small hallway camera. Her answer was soft. "Now, we tell the truth ourselves before someone else tells it for us." Robin's lips parted, eyes wide. "You can't be serious." Meri stepped closer, her tone final, almost calm. "I've been silent for half my life. If that footage leaks, let it. But if the world's going to hear my voice, they'll hear it from me." She turned toward the cameras that were still rolling. The official ones, the crew's, her eyes steady, a faint smile pulling at the corners of her mouth. And then she spoke directly to the audience. The same audience that had watched every lie unfold for over a decade. "You've heard his side. You've heard their side. Now you'll hear mine." She took a breath. The lights dimmed slightly, just enough to cast every shadow a little longer, and somewhere outside, in the van that held the backup servers, a new upload notification appeared. File 23B, Meri Faye Final Faye Confession. Move the bar filled to 100%. Upload complete. To be continued. If you were here for this moment, stay close. What happens next isn't just another story. It's the one they never meant for you to hear. Tap the bell. Keep watching. The truth is coming.